Hello? Is this thing on? Yeah, it appears to be working. All right. So, I got to figure out a few things here. Let's put a little to-do list on here. So, when I get like a transparent cam background, I figure that out. I want to get display chat on screen. Figure that out. I've done that before, but it's been a while. I'm wondering if there's a plugin or something to do that better. And what else? We're going to do some Kafka stuff today. Kafka plus Couchbase plus maybe MySQL. If we get to it. What else? Well, that's probably a good enough start. See if anyone joins that can help me out with these sort of things. But I also need to, I guess I can also put this on here, figure out a schedule, like twice a week sort of thing. You know, maybe 2 to 3 hours twice a week. Seems like a pretty good schedule to start with. We're doing a lot more of this streaming stuff on Twitch to kind of show you guys some of the cool stuff I'm working on and help answer questions. Any questions that you guys might have. We're doing mostly Couchbase related stuff, doing some .NET, some C#, and some JavaScript probably also. Working on Entity Framework. That's not going to be today, but Entity Framework soon. Entity Framework Core 3. Yep. So with the camera here, let's just play with this a little bit. See what we can do. I can do like a filter on this. Effects filter. Let's see. I can do like a chroma key, but I don't really have like a background, like a green screen sort of thing. So I can do this. That's not really helpful. I don't know if you all can see that, but I'm messing around with a filter right now. Yeah, you can see that. So I'm going to remove that. That doesn't seem to be the effect that I want. Apply LUT. I don't know what that means. Don't know. Image mask, blend, render, delay, scaling aspect ratio. That's another thing I need to think about is screen resolution. Because, you know, it's a little, I got the full resolution of my monitor here being shared. That may be a little hard for you to see if you're following along with the stream, so I got to figure that out too. Stuff to figure out. If you're in the chat, just say hey, so I know you're there. It doesn't look like anyone's in right now. That's fine. Just kind of did this spur of the moment. So let's do what developers do best, I guess. We can Google. So I want to do an OBS camera background remove. Okay, I think I did this earlier, but I know that Zoom can do this, and I think Skype can do it too, where you can just like filter out the background or blur the background. So I assume you can cut me out as well without having to throw a green screen up back there. Could absolutely be wrong. Free background removal without a green screen. This is a YouTube video. Mm-hmm. Yes. It's like an infinity mirror. Oh, good one. Can we get on with it? Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be without a green screen, though. Confused by this. Mm-hmm. Chroma Cam. Interesting. Okay, so it sort of makes another camera. Let's go ahead and try that. Chroma Cam. I don't know if that's what you OBS people use, you Twitch people, but it's worth a shot. Get a little bit more real estate on the screen here. So you can't really tell, but I'm downloading Chroma Cam right now. Let's just bring it up here on the screen. Chroma Cam. Remove your background without a green screen. And so this is interesting because there's a free version with standard image backgrounds. Custom backgrounds. Well, I just want like a transparent background. Hopefully that's a standard one. All right, let's try installing it here. Let's see what happens. Hopefully this won't blow everything up, but let's try it. We're doing it live. Hey, if you're in the chat, say hi so I know you're here. Let me just write that into the chat room. I want to add the chat to the screen here eventually too. I could just capture the chat window. Oh, hey, Kevin Griffin's in the chat room. Awesome. I could just capture it, but I think there's some plugins for it as well. Probably a little easier for me to have an OBS plugin than having to capture it all the time, but I'm not sure. We'll see. Kevin, I'm just sort of messing around with OBS and Twitch here, trying to get my camera feed to have a transparent background, so get a little more screen real estate. So I'm installing Chroma Key. All right, so start your video app. Yep. In settings, choose Chroma Cam as the camera. Fine. Streamlabs OBS is greater than OBS. Okay. Is that just a variant of OBS? I guess. I'll have to look that up too. So I'll put that on my list. Streamlabs OBS. Figure out what that is. I used to do a little bit of streaming, probably about a year or so ago. And I did some on Twitch, some on Periscope and YouTube. It was mainly YouTube, I think. But yeah, I'm sure things have changed a lot since then, and you know, people are way more into streaming these days, and there's lots of interesting little tech advancements. So I'm going to have to research some of that. But Streamlabs OBS, okay. I'm probably not going to switch to that today because that would require me to probably stop and restart. Let's just keep going here with Chroma Cam. I highly recommend Fritz's write-up. Okay. That's probably a good place to start. C# Fritz, by the way, is also a Twitch streamer. You can check him out. I think it is Twitch TV / C# Fritz. So just put that on the screen. I know you probably can't read this, which is something I have to worry about as well, is the screen resolution. But there, I'll plug for C# Fritz. Hey, CodeBytes TV is in here. CodeBytes TV, that's Calvin Allen. Calvin Allen's my ride or die. And I told him I would give him some sort of, I don't know, permissions or whatever. I don't know how to do that. Mod user. I guess hit the lightning bolt. There you go. You're a mod now. I guess. Okay. I want all to things. You can have all to things, Calvin. All right, now I'm going to add a new video capture device. This is going to be my Chroma Cam. And let's see, allow access. Yeah, that's fine. Chroma Cam, there it is. Doesn't seem to be working. Here, I'll just show it on the screen here. This is what I'm seeing. Yeah. Can I move this up here? I'm going to move that up there. There we go. Okay, well, let's just hit OK and see what happens. And it looks like you're seeing the camera with the X through it icon. So maybe I have to turn off the Logitech camera first. Let's try that. Get rid of this. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Chroma Cam. Remove. Video capture device. Chroma Cam. And Chroma Cam. Does not appear to be cooperating. So I'll bring this guy back on. Were you able to ever do the sort of filter out the background from behind your camera feed there, Calvin? I don't remember if you were doing that when you were streaming last or not. Let's see, there's some sort of Chroma Cam desktop app. Yes, but I bought an actual green screen. Yeah, see, I bought a green screen too, and lights, etc. You guys are really into this. I don't know about that. Set up a green screen here and lights and the whole thing. Especially if I'm traveling, I don't really want to carry all that stuff with me. If you're going to do this, commit. Commit to being, yeah, mine are in the closet, Calvin says. Okay, well, let's see. Chroma Cam is a camera. Remove or replace your background. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. Let's try this again. Chroma Cam, configure video. Oh, there's a Chroma Cam. Okay, I gotta sign in maybe? That's interesting. Sign in with Twitch. Let's see. Matthew D. Groves. Log it on in. What is this going to do? Token. I'm going to enter my two-factor authentication. It's just a lot of bulk to have sitting in my office all the time, and it's painful to set up, tear down every time I want to use them. Yeah, I would agree with that. And yeah, I don't think, you know, I've seen Fritz a few times in like the last week. I don't think he uses a green screen because like he had an issue the other day where something was showing up in the background, like a little remnant of something. I think it was just not being filtered out by whatever software he's using. All right, logging in the Chroma Cam right now. I don't know if this is going to do anything, but it's worth a shot. Do you have the link to Fritz's write-up handy, Kevin, while I'm on this other screen messing around? I can just Google it, I guess. C# Fritz, Twitch, blog post. Well, Calvin says, if you figure out a software-based way to do that, that would definitely be awesome. Well, so I know that like Zoom and Skype are doing it. Oh, here's the link. Thank you, Kevin. They have those capabilities already. So this Chroma Cam is just spinning here. I don't know what's going on. Here's Fritz's setup. Yep, microphone. I got a pretty good mic. The sound mixer deal, I don't know if I want to go into a sound mixer situation. Just yet. I don't know if I need that. I know he does all kinds of crazy sound effects and stuff. Sound configuration is always tricky, yeah. Camera, lighting. So he does have lighting. Computing power, yeah. Keyboard, okay. Auxiliary video. This is the Stream Deck thing. So this is the, this is a little device. I remember him talking about this. OBS plugins, okay. So it looks like he's not using Streamlabs, or at least he wasn't at the time. I know Brendan has a full green screen, uses Streamlabs OBS, says Calvin. Also, I have a Stream Deck for sound effects. Well, let's get the fundamentals down before I start adding sound effects. The wacky morning DJ sort of thing. Remote co-hosts, so that's pretty cool, actually. That might be good for some of the streams that my brother and I were trying to do with gaming. To check those out. What else we got? On-screen widgets. I see this all the time when someone follows or subscribes or whatever. It plays a little GIF or a clip or something. Chatbots, yep. There we go. Green screen and chroma key. I use this green screen behind me exclusively. Okay. He might have changed this, but this was posted earlier this year. I don't know. It's interesting. Okay. Well, let's try this one more time with the chroma key, then I'll move to something else. Or the Chroma Cam. Chroma Cam. Let's turn off my camera first. Chroma Cam. Yeah, it just doesn't want to show up and it keeps spinning. That's no good. Alright, well, play with that later. Turn this guy back on. Okay. What else we got? So I haven't figured that out. So display chat on screen. So I've got a lot of the screen taken up by my monitor. So I can sort of shrink this down a little bit maybe. Which means I have to figure out my resolution too. But what I can do is I know I could pop out this chat window. And I can add as a source like a window capture. Twitch chat already in use, so I must have this somewhere else. Let's see. Window capture. Twitch chat win capture. And I want this one. Okay, now this isn't a problem I had before. It's capturing the browser, but it's not actually showing up in the stream. How did I solve this last time? I don't know if I did. Oh, I think what I did was I ended up doing like a screen capture. Which is no good, because then I can't move it around. So I need to find out a plugin for that. I don't know. Do you guys have any suggestions for chat plugins? Streamlabs has a chat widget. You can use a URL. Okay, well, there we go. So it looks like Streamlabs might be the way to go with this, is a chat widget with URL. Which, I wonder, actually. Let me try. There might be another way to do this. So I just go to the URL. Okay, nothing shows up because I need to be logged in probably. But is there a... I thought there was a URL... a browser. So Twitch chat browser. Let's try this. Because I think I use this for CapChat when I was using Restream. Yeah, use that URL as a source in OBS. And the width, I don't know. Let's try smaller width. So it doesn't appear to be working either. I always found it kind of flaky trying to get the resolution sizing. Yeah. Okay. So I'll have to look into that some more. All right. Schedule. Any opinions on schedule, Calvin? So I know like Fritz does, he's like 4 times a week. I'm trying to do 2 times a week. I'm thinking maybe 1 in the afternoon and 1 in the morning just to hit a nice selection of time zones. Yeah, we can actually bring up. One thing I don't want to conflict with is Fritz, who is looks like he's not streaming right now, but he's hosting, which is something else I got to figure out. Is hosting. Like, how do I host? Want to host Code Bytes TV, for instance, or Fritz whenever they're on. I would try to avoid Fritz, DevChatter, and Ardalis. Yeah, DevChatter, Ardalis. I mean, there's so many right now that I'm bound to conflict with somebody. So I gotta draw a line somewhere. There's also auto host list in your channel setup, so you have the channels in order that you want to auto host. Okay. All right, and screen resolution. That might be in here, actually. Let's see if he... What's anything about resolution? Looks like no. I just have to play with that. Okay, what else we got? I suppose we could do some actual coding and stuff today. Where's my dashboard at? Thank you for the follow, Kev Griff. 1 Kev Griff. That was 15 minutes ago, but better late than never, I guess. Belated thank you. If I had a fancier setup, it would do some sort of magic on the screen and play a sound effect and stuff. We'll get there. We'll get there. All right. I'll tell you what I'm working on a little bit here. So I'm working on a tutorial, actually, for the Couchbase website. So one of the responsibilities I have as a DA is to write content, and tutorial is one type of content I can write. This will actually live in the docs website. It's a separate Git repo, but it lives in the docs website. So this tutorial that I'm working on it's kind of based on retail, but the key part is it's called Customer 360, and this is actually a relatively common use case for Couchbase customers, especially the larger companies. And let me bring up a little diagram over here. This is Visual Studio Code, by the way, which I really like to use to write tutorials and blog posts and things of this nature. But this is a tutorial. It's going to be a piece of a much larger architectural system. But I'm focused on basically this first part here. And what we have is we just sort of imagining a customer, a user, an architecture, where you're a big company, largest, and we're going to focus on retail for this one. But you can imagine for other types of companies where they have lots of different systems, lots of different databases. BRB meeting. Okay, thanks for dropping by, Calvin. We'll see if you have time after meeting. I'll be here till probably 4-ish, maybe a little earlier than that. But anyway, you can imagine a large company, let's say a retailer, and these are just examples. I'm not saying that these are any particular Couchbase customers or otherwise. But let's say you had a large retailer, and like Best Buy or Walmart or Kroger, somebody like that, really large company. And I'm sure some of you have worked in large companies like this before. And there's lots of different systems. It's not just a single database and a single system in the enterprise. There's lots of different systems. And so as an example here, we've got, these are all things that the users, your customers, people that are interacting with you, they're all using these different systems. Now to them, it might appear like I'm just interacting with Kroger. I'm just interacting with Best Buy, period. But really behind the scenes, I'm interacting with like Walmart's or Kroger's home delivery system. And that has its own database, its own website, and so on. Or Kroger's loyalty program. Kroger has the Kroger Plus card. That's maybe a separate system, separate database to keep track of your fuel perks and coupons and all those sorts of things that you get with the Kroger Plus card. Home delivery is for Kroger, it's called ClickList. And Walmart has, does Walmart have one? Maybe they don't. I think Giant Eagle might have one. Anyway, home delivery. ClickList isn't home delivery, but they do have home delivery. Maybe the pharmacy has home delivery, things like that. And the pharmacy might even be a separate system. And then like an online store, and this is right, they call here CRM. So you go to walmart.com. That might be where you place your walmart.com orders, your bestbuy.com orders, and so on. And that's maybe another website, another database. And in this tutorial, we're only going to go with 3. But in reality, you're probably talking a dozen different systems at least in the real world. And home delivery might be MySQL, loyalty program might be Postgres, the online store CRM might be, who knows what. Could be some third party, or it could be tied into some legacy database like an AS400 or Oracle or something. And these are all separate ways of storing data. And so what we want to do then is we want to be able to sort of ingest data from all these systems into a single system called our Customer 360. And this is where, I think I lost the chat window. This is where you'd want to basically start copying data from all those different systems, because the home delivery might have my information as a user, but only a slice of it, only the home delivery slice of that data. And I might also be in the loyalty program, but again, only has a slice of that data. But suppose I want to view a customer as a whole, not just individual slices, individual pieces. I could switch between home delivery to loyalty, but I couldn't get the whole picture by looking at any individual parts of it. So I want to sort of aggregate them and combine them all together into maybe like one user document or one user record in my Customer 360 system. And there's lots of reasons I might want to do that. So for one, it is I can just get a single view of a person. So if they are calling in to check on something, or if they're having trouble locating something, or they have a question about something in their account, then I can just go to the Customer 360 system and bring up everything about that one person. And it's data pulled in from all these different systems in one place. So it's really good for individual customer service. Another reason I might want to do this is I can start to make some interesting reports and dashboards based on that data. If I can pull in every piece of information I have about every user into one system, then I can start querying that system for all kinds of analytics. I can do things like just checking on my users to see, which users have spent the most money with me, my most valued customers, or which users have had the most online orders, or where do most of my online orders come from. I might want to think about, I'm going to open a new warehouse. Where would be a good location for it? Well, maybe I have a warehouse in the east and a warehouse in the west, and I'm trying to figure out, I need to put one in the central. Well, where's a good location? Where are most of my customers already ordering from? I can serve them better. Just an example. I could also do things like make recommendations. See, okay, well, users of this particular demographic, they seem to be interested in purchasing certain items or participating in certain promotions. So I can then pull that information and recommend it and say, well, based on people like you, kind of like what Amazon does, people like you have purchased this thing. You've purchased X, Y. Other people have purchased X, Y, and Z. So we recommend you purchase Z. So you can try to drive more sales that way. So anyway, Customer 360, getting the data in here is really the first step. And then we can start doing those queries and things after we have the data into this Customer 360 platform here. And of course, I'm using Couchbase as my platform. But the tricky part of this is that, like I said, all those systems may have different database technologies, or different, may not even have access to the database. You may have access to something else. So this tutorial is kind of just to help you figure out the steps you might have to take to start getting data from those other places and into Couchbase, into a Customer 360 database. So the first one, as we've decided up here, is this home delivery, and I've got some notes here. So the first one is, we're going to call it a MySQL database. So home delivery has maybe some website, mobile apps, whatever. Let me see if I can't crop my view a little bit here to get it out of the way. There we go. A little bit more real estate. I'll figure out that chat thing later. Anyway, so we're going to assume this is MySQL, and there's different approaches to getting data out of MySQL. One of the things we're going to do, we're not going to just move data from home delivery into Couchbase one time. We're going to do this on an ongoing basis. We're not yet going to decommission this database because it's already wired into these systems, the home delivery systems. There's no reason for us to shut those down right now. Maybe eventually we'll get to that point, or maybe we won't. Maybe we'll just keep it like this indefinitely. So we want to sort of continuously get a feed of that data. And one way we can do that is we can use Kafka. And if you've not heard of Kafka before, it's Apache Kafka is the open source project, and Confluent is a company that has kind of an enterprise version of Kafka with a lot of extra interesting tooling and features and things like that. But it's essentially it's built on this Kafka project, and it's people kind of compare it to RabbitMQ and queuing tools like that. It's similar to that. They call it a streaming platform. So you put data into it, into what's called a topic in Kafka, some piece of data, maybe like you query a row of data from MySQL, or if you update a row of data in MySQL, you send that off to Kafka. And then so Kafka will, you'll put it in a topic in Kafka. And keep in mind, I am very much a Kafka neophyte here, so I might be explaining things completely wrong. And you're welcome to submit any sort of corrections or other information into the chat window there, because I'm learning a lot about Kafka. I used to use RabbitMQ a bit at previous jobs, so I know a little bit more about that. But I don't think Kafka is really the same thing as one of those queuing systems. Anywho, me just while I'm at it, I'm gonna just invite some people from the Couchbase community. To join us here. Let them know about it. Twitch TV/Matthew D. Groves. Trying out Twitch for the first time. Trying out some live coding on Twitch for the first time. Stop by and chat if you have a moment, and I'll post a link there. I'm just posting that into the Couchbase community directory, which is community.couchbase.com. So if you're doing any Couchbase stuff, it's a great place to find other people who are doing Couchbase, other Couchbase community members, interact with them, find out about events and things like that coming up. Anyway, posted it there. And yeah. So anyway, the idea here is we're going to use Kafka as the channel to move data from MySQL to Couchbase, to a bucket in Couchbase. And there'll be some integration we have to do once it's there. But right now I'm just kind of interested in getting the data from here to there. And so Kafka itself is just kind of a standalone thing. It's just its own process, a couple processes actually, but just think of it as its own process. Trying to figure out where I am on the screen here now that I cropped it. There we go, right about there. It's its own process. So we have MySQL as a process, and you've got Kafka as a process, and you've got Couchbase as a process. So we got 3 different processes here, roughly. I mean, when I say the word process, just 3 different pieces of software. And so what you need to do is we need to figure out a way to get the data from MySQL into Kafka, into a Kafka topic. So in Kafka, that's known as a source. You have something that puts data into Kafka as a source. And then we need to get the data out of Kafka into Couchbase. And that, Couchbase in this case would be called a sink. S-I-N-K, sink. So MySQL is the source, Couchbase is the sink. And we could write some software, just code up to query from MySQL and put it into Kafka, and then write another piece of software to receive messages from Kafka Stream and put them into Couchbase. We could do that, but luckily for us, there's already been some connectors created for both of those databases. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, is I'm trying to get those connectors to behave. And I've got most of the way there, I think. So what I'm going to do, I've got this document here. I'm sort of keeping track of all the different steps. I'll briefly cover the other parts of this too. So this loyalty program, we've said this is going to be a PostgreSQL database. And the only way we can get data from that is maybe we don't have access to it directly. We could probably use a Kafka connector there too, but we're trying to demonstrate other options. So it's Postgres, sure, but the only thing we have is a nightly CSV export from that. That's all we have available to us. That's all that the database group will allow, or something along those lines, right? We have a nightly CSV. So we need to write a program to look for that CSV and put it into Couchbase. So that we actually have to write a program for, which we'll get to at some point. And we have a third system, this online store CRM, and we don't even have a CSV export from that. All we have is the ability to make HTTP requests, or probably some sort of REST interface, to this system. So we're not receiving data. We are just sort of pulling data, one user at a time. Excuse me. Got to figure out a cough button on this thing. Is there a mute? Yep, that mutes it. Okay. And so we'll come to that as well. We'll have to write some code in the integration to actually respond to the data coming in from Kafka, respond to the data coming in from the CSV, nightly CSV program, and then make requests out here to get data about individual users. And we'll do all that in Couchbase, but we're not even there. We're not to that point yet. So what I've got here is, this is not the tutorial. This is just sort of my own notes, and I like to use ASCIIDoc, and I use it here in VS Code. I have an ASCIIDoctor plugin. You can see that it's got it. What is it called? Just called ASCIIDoc. This is a great extension for VS Code. So at Couchbase, the documentation is written in ASCIIDoc. I've been writing blog posts in ASCIIDoc for probably 2 years. Now they don't, they get rendered to HTML to be put into WordPress at some point. But I write them in ASCIIDoc. I really like ASCIIDoc. It has some great features in terms of importing snippets of code I really like. So I heavily use ASCIIDoc. But it looks a lot like Markdown. It's, I believe it's a superset of Markdown, if I'm not mistaken. So, but this plugin actually renders it like a preview of it over here with the ASCIIDoctor command line, that should be a list there. Put a space in there. So the first part is to install MySQL. I've already done that. So let me bring up my MySQL program of choice. So I've got, this is a Windows program called HeidiSQL, H-E-I-D-I SQL. And this is a tool that's, think of it like a SQL, like SQL Server Management Studio, able to connect to MySQL or MariaDB, or you can also connect to other ones like SQL Server and PostgreSQL is in there. So it's a handy little tool to have in Windows. So I've got a MySQL database set already, and this is my my highly secure credentials is root and password. So let's go ahead and open that one. Nope. I think that's what it was. Oh no, I think it's a no password. Yeah, it's not even a password. It's highly insecure. But here you can see HeidiSQL. There's the name of it up there, HeidiSQL. So I got this home delivery database, and there's no tables in there yet. But you can see I've got a database set up. And I've also got Postgres set up locally, and this is inside of the, what do I call it, the loyalty program database. And again, no tables in there yet. But I've got both of these set up, and we'll start putting tables in there at some point. I think I have some more details on, I think these both are just going to be one table each. Now, obviously, in reality, they'd be a whole bunch of tables. We're really interested in a certain part of users' data, so it'll probably be in one table we'll need to be pulling from, but we're not even to that point yet, so I'll close that up. So I've got MySQL installed. I used Chocolate to install it. I'm on Windows here. You can install MySQL a ton of different ways. Chocolate is easy. apt-get if you're on Linux. There's probably also a Windows installer, other installers you can use. I'm not sure how you do on Mac. I don't ever use Macs. And I created a home database. And I got to figure out what tables we're going to put in there later. And for Postgres, there's also a Chocolate for that. I had a little bit of trouble with the Chocolate one for some reason. So I just went and downloaded a Windows installer package from enterprisedb.com of Postgres. And I created a database called Loyalty Program in there. And again, you need to create some tables. The next thing I did was Kafka. And this is the part that I am learning a lot about Kafka, which is to say I don't know very much about it. Getting a message here from my wife. I don't need that on the screen, so I'll take it off. She's sending me a message about, so we're playing a Disney cruise. Oh, she wants to know what GTY means. It means the room number's not assigned yet. Yes, I'm counting down the days to a Disney cruise, by the way. Yeah, literally, as you can see on my phone here, I've got a countdown app. 57 days. Looking forward to that. It was great, great time. I was really skeptical about cruises, but family convinced me to go on one, and I loved it. So we booked another one almost right away. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, Kafka. All right, so with Kafka, you can kind of see here. Let me bring up the folder here. So this is my sort of working folder right now, and there's some pieces in here. I downloaded this Kafka package, and so inside of Kafka, there's all these folders, and one of them is a bin folder, and these are a bunch of scripts that do things that run Kafka for you. Oh, I got some sirens in the background. I live on a relatively busy street, so there's always sirens and stuff during the day. I've gotten kind of used to it. Anyway, fortunately, there's also some batch files for Windows as well. And what I've done is there's a handy little QuickStart guide right here. Let's bring that up. Yeah, it's right. No, it's not right here. It's here we go. /QuickStart. And what this does is it tells you how to get started with Kafka. And so there's 2 steps from what I can tell. And with Confluent, this might be different. I'm assuming it's the same sort of pieces, but Confluent, you might run it differently. Confluence, one of Confluence's control programs doesn't actually have a Windows version, so that's why I'm sticking to this. Not that I have anything against Confluent, it's just that this was sort of the easiest way for me to get started. Anyway, so the first thing you need to do is download the code. And this is how you can do it here. You can download it and untar it, and that's what I did in this folder right here. So this is just the untarred copy of that downloaded package. Nothing special about that. The next step is to start this thing called Zookeeper. And so Zookeeper, from my understanding, is a process that manages the actual Kafka nodes. So it's kind of like a manager for Kafka. Because with Kafka you can have multiple nodes, what they call it. You can have a distributed Kafka cluster. And so Zookeeper is what actually manages that. So if a node goes down, or if it needs to be replicated, data needs to be replicated between nodes, things like that, I believe Zookeeper is what enables that. Again, it's very new to me. So that's the first thing you need to do, actually, is start Zookeeper. So all these examples here are how you do it on Linux, but it's very simple to do it in Windows as well. It's just a slightly different command. So whenever you see bin / you just substitute that. I think it says right here, yeah, bin/Windows instead. So I'll go ahead and start Zookeeper. I'm just following the quick start guide here exactly. So it's outputting a lot of stuff here, but it looks like it has started successfully. So we're seeing info messages, we're not seeing any error messages. I'm curious about something. I run zoom it. I think yeah, works pretty well. So I can zoom in there. You can see we're running Zookeeper. Okay, so that's all started. The next thing to do is actually run Kafka. So Kafka, I'll run it in a separate window. Let's minimize this one. Right here, I've got a separate. So this is my first terminal window. I'm just going to leave that running there. I'm using PowerShell here. I got a second one, so I'm actually going to start Kafka in that one. Again, just following the quick start guide. You can see that I'm just saying Kafka-server-start bat file, and I'm telling it which config file to use. And it's just a built-in one that comes with the package called server.properties. So go ahead and run that. It'll take a second. So see, it's like a Zookeeper client. So it's doing something with Zookeeper, and you can see that this also had some things. Yeah, so they're both things are happening in both windows. Don't ask me what these messages mean. I could probably figure it out, but I don't know offhand. But I think it means, since nothing's crashing, no error messages, that we're working. Now, with Kafka and Zookeeper, you typically, I think, need to run multiple instances of both of them in a production scenario. But we're just doing a tutorial scenario here, so we're just trying to do the simplest thing. The next thing we can do, and this might actually, I don't think I've removed this yet, so this might already be done, but we need to create a topic. So think of a topic in Kafka as just kind of like a place to put stuff, a place to put messages, to stream data into Kafka. So think of it like almost like a queue in RabbitMQ. I don't think it's a queue, but it's sort of an organizational place to put stuff, right? So I want to create a topic to put data that's going to come from that MySQL database. So I'm going to call it the home delivery topic. So I'll just zoom in here a little bit. So there's another script, Kafka-topics, to create. I'm not sure what the bootstrap server means. I guess that means which server, which Kafka server to look for, because you can have multiple Kafka servers. But I'm guessing if you bootstrap one, it's going to be able to find out about the other ones if necessary. Replication factor 1. I assume that means we're only replicating it one time or maybe 0 times. And partitions 1. Again, this is just all coming straight out of that QuickStart guide. And then I'm giving a -- topic, and I'm saying create a topic and call that topic home-delivery. All right. And this might give me an error message that it already exists. Let's find out. Okay, it does not. So, and you can see some things happened over here. At home delivery, starts at leader epoch 1. And up here, you can see something else happened. We've got some stuff happening. This is just info again, but you can see it's got some home delivery. I'm pointing to my screen like you can see my finger. But you can see that it's created an error path for that home delivery topic. Okay, so we got the topic. And the next thing we need to do, well, I've already installed Couchbase. So let me bring up Couchbase here. So Couchbase is here running. I've got just, again, one server here. Again, in production, you probably want to do 3, a whole cluster of servers, that sort of thing. But we're just doing a tutorial. We don't need to go through all that stuff. And I've got one bucket in Couchbase. It's called a bucket, which is a collection of data. So right now there's nothing in there, but I could, for instance, go ahead and add Matt's document, give it a document key, and put some JSON in there, like maybe foo bar. So with Couchbase, you typically want to store data as JSON. So this is different than your traditional, your old style relational databases where you have to define a table and fields and schema and all those sorts of things. The only schema we really have is that there is a key. The key must be unique, and you have to put JSON. It has to be valid JSON in there. That's really the only schema that we have. And there's some metadata as well. That's not important. We're storing data as JSON, so we can have some structure to it. It's very flexible. So I could start adding another field in there. I don't have to go and modify any other piece of data. So it's not related to any other piece of data. It's non-relational. So there we go. So I have some data in there, but we can just delete that. Just an example. So we have no results in here right now. It's a completely empty bucket. Okay. So the next thing to do is we're going to set up the Kafka Couchbase connector. So if we go back to my picture, this is the part that's going to allow this data to go from MySQL, well, not the MySQL part. It's going to allow the data to go from Kafka into Couchbase. So we got to figure out how to get the data from MySQL into Kafka. But with the second part we can do right now, which is how do we get data from Kafka into Couchbase? So we have to set up a Couchbase Kafka connector. And if you go to Couchbase.com, I'll just show it here, Couchbase.com, and we go to products, and this will be under big data. And you see that we've got a Spark connector and a Kafka connector. So we get started with Kafka, and so yeah, it's open source. You can see that on GitHub, but I thought there was a download link. Yeah, here we go. So that you can just go to the QuickStart here, and then you can download the zip file of Kafka, which I already did earlier. You can see it is right over here. Kafka Couchbase, Kafka Connect Couchbase 3.4.3. And that doesn't have much in it. Go over to Kafka Couchbase. It's got this jar file. Jar is a Java program, essentially. And it's got some config files and some examples. But really, this is the connector right here, this jar file. And we'll combine it with the config, which we'll get to in a second. And there's some examples here of actually putting data into Kafka. We're going to use for testing here. Okay. So back to my README. So I created this this sync-home-deliveries.properties file. And the way I created that was, if you go into that config folder, you'll see there's a QuickStart-Couchbase-sync. And this is the example that ships with the Kafka connector. And it has some just the very basic connection information you need to connect Kafka to Couchbase. So you modify this file based on your own configuration. So I called mine something different, a different name. I gave it a different topic. Remember it created that topic before called home delivery. Your Couchbase cluster address is going to be different depending on your configuration. Your credentials are going to be different. Username, password, bucket name, so on. And there's some other settings down here we don't need to get into. So I made a copy of that file. I called it sync-home delivery because this is going to be what I use to set up Couchbase as a sync for the home delivery. And up here I gave it a different name, home delivery sync. And I called the topic home-delivery because that's what I used up here when I created the topic. So my Couchbase cluster is running locally, so I didn't have to change this. But I did have to change the bucket name to staging. So you go back over to here, right here. You can see I've got one bucket named staging. So if I call it something different, I would just change that here to something different. And my credentials, again, for my local Couchbase cluster are administrator and password. Not good credentials. It's fine because it's local and everything's behind a firewall, but in production you want to use something a lot more secure than administrator and password. Everything else I left alone. It's all the same. So those are the things I changed. So once I have that config file, I will go ahead and launch the connector. And that's this command right here. Yes. So this is a little bit of a long command here. We'll just go by step by step. So as a connect standalone script batch file, and I'm going to give it the connect standalone properties. And this is a Kafka properties file that came out of the box with Kafka. So I'm saying we're going to launch Kafka as a standalone server here. And we're going to use that sync file that I created, this Kafka Connect sync properties. And so it's going to know, if we go back to here, it's going to use this class. This is a Java class that's in that jar file that I mentioned. com.couchbase.connect.kafka.couchbase sync connector. So if you wanted to, for instance, you could create your own connector by just writing a Java program, a jar file. But like I said, we don't have to. Couchbase already has one. Okay, so I will launch that connector. And cross your fingers, this will work. So I'm getting this warning message, more than one Couchbase environments found. I'm kind of wondering why that is. It's just a warning, it's not an error, and it works. But I'm wondering if I'm running this connector twice somehow accidentally. But anyway, so now that connector is running, so now I have yet another window I'm just going to leave open. So at this point, we've got Kafka, Kafka Connector, and Couchbase, with those three parts. And at this point, they should all be in communication with each other. So what I've got here is a staging bucket, and there's no data in there yet. I have not hooked up anything like MySQL to it yet. So that's what I'm going to do next, is actually put some data into Kafka. Now, before we go into MySQL, we can just do a little bit of testing. We can test that the connector is, in fact, syncing data into Couchbase. And there's a sample program, a script, a JavaScript that comes with the connector. And this is Java world, so I'm like a fish out of water here. But we'll go into the Couchbase, the Connect Couchbase folder. This is, my head is covering this up. Into the Kafka Connect Couchbase folder. And in there is an examples folder. And so what I've got is some custom extensions, and I've got this JSON producer. So what it's going to do is going to put JSON data into that home delivery topic in Kafka. And then once it's in there, the Couchbase connector is going to say, oh, hey, there's some data in my topic. Let's put it in the Couchbase. So when I run this, we're going to see, if I can fit it on the screen here. Right now you can see that there are 0 items in staging. We're going to see some items start to show up in there. And the way we run this script is with Maven, which is MVM. Again, this is unfamiliar Java territory. But we're going to compile that Java program, which, by the way, I made a change to. I should probably point that out. In the examples, JSON producer. So in this Java class, the topic was actually like Couchbase example or something. I changed that to home-delivery. Now, this ultimately isn't going to be important. This is just for testing, so not a big deal, but I thought I'd just point that out. So go ahead and run that. And so, fingers crossed, it's going to start putting some data in there. So you can see it's putting some airport data, like airport, degrees Fahrenheit, timestamp, and each of them have a key. So this Java program is generating these objects, this data, and putting them into a Couchbase or to a Kafka topic. I don't know if you noticed this or not, but the staging went from 0 to 20 items. So the data is going in through Kafka into Couchbase. We're not putting it into Couchbase directly. It's going in through Kafka. So if I look at this, I can bring up one of these documents. I can see that, yes, it matches. So 05B, and I can find that one over here. 05B, you can see it's number 8, which we're specifying a key, and then it's airport YVR, degrees 72, and the timestamps match. So there we go. We've got some data flowing into Couchbase through Kafka. All right, and so that's enough for us to maybe start writing a tutorial on, because this is just kind of setup. There's more. The real meat of this tutorial is going to be, where's that image at? It's going to be this part right here, this integration part. Once the data makes its way into Couchbase, well then what do we do with it? How do we combine it together into a single user entity that makes sense? I think we have another viewer or two in the room. Don't know how long you've been watching, but feel free to drop a message in the chat, say hi. If you've got questions or anything you want to see, I just sort of covered a lot of ground here, but I'm happy to cover it again if you're interested. And just to show my little Twitch checklist here, some stuff I need to figure out. So if you know any of this stuff, you can help me out. One of the things I'm trying to figure out is how to get this background here behind my head transparent. And I think there's a way to do that without a green screen. So I'm trying to figure that out. I'm also trying to figure out how to display chat on the screen, though I think that's probably going to be switching to this Streamlabs OBS, which was recommended earlier by Kevin Griffin, I believe. And I've been thinking about a schedule. I'm thinking twice a week, 2 to 3 hours every session. Once in the afternoon, like right now. For me, it's the afternoon. And one in the morning. That way I hit a nice selection of time zones in Europe and the United States. Give everybody a chance to participate, join, ask questions. Today we're talking about Kafka and Couchbase, and hopefully we'll get to some MySQL stuff. This is where I still need to figure some things out. But eventually I want to also get to working on some Entity Framework Core 3 stuff. So I'm trying to get a Couchbase Entity Framework Core 3 provider created, so that if you're interested in Couchbase and you also like Entity Framework, you can use them both together. Get some nice benefits from using Entity Framework, some integration benefits, and things like that. I'm not going to be able to create the whole thing myself, though, so that's why I'm trying to do it out here a little more publicly in a Twitch room, so that you can see sort of my thought process and maybe jump in and help. It'll be completely open source. And I just need to think about the screen resolution as well. So just from what I can tell, this is probably the size of the stream right now. It's probably hard to read a lot of this text. That's why I'm using Zoom It here to zoom in, get a better view of it. But I need to figure that out as well. And Kevin Griffin also linked me to C# Fritz. He made a really good write-up about his Twitch setup. So I need to go through that and see if there's anything I can take away from that. It's another plug for him, by the way. He has a Twitch channel. He's been doing some great stuff with live coding and streaming here on Twitch. So definitely check him out, C# Fritz. Some other people down here, CodeBytes TV. He's on here. I just plugged him. Dev Chatter and Ardalis. They're also doing some Twitch streaming. And those are guys that I probably want to do some sort of hosting at some point. So I need to figure out how to actually do that with my Twitch dashboard and everything. Oh, I can pick a live channel to raid or host. I can add to auto host. Interesting. I got a lot to learn when it comes to Twitch. So if anybody has any suggestions or comments, I'd love to hear them. Okay. So we've got this connector running here. I was able to put some data into here from just that little Java program that created 20 pieces of data. The next thing I need to do is actually try to get MySQL to put data, to be a source of data into Kafka. And this is, I haven't gotten this far yet. So everything I've shown you so far, I've been working on the last day and a half or so to just try to understand this stuff and get it working. The MySQL part, I'm not much of a MySQL. I'm not much of a MySQL user, and I'm not much of a Kafka user. So this is definitely some interesting territory for me. But just to recap, I've got these 4 different terminals running. So this is the Zookeeper instance. This one is Kafka. This is the Kafka Couchbase connector. This is just where I was running that Java program to put some data into Kafka. All right, so I think I'm going to take a quick little break here. Turn this off and maybe put some text up here, just so I'm on break. Maybe a picture of Scruffy would be good, huh? Scruffy, I'm on break. Scruffy the janitor? Yeah, there we go. I'm going to save that one. Scruffy, I'm on break. This will be fun. We'll put a little like image into this. Call it Scruffy. And where is that? Scruffy. I'm on break. There he is. And let's see. Can we move Scruffy back under the camera? There we go. I'm on break. So I will be back shortly. All right, back. Got myself a little bit of soda. Had a quick bio break. Some more information you probably needed to know. Coke Zero is my sort of beverage of choice these days. Although I've been drinking a little more coffee than normal. Had a lot of coffee this morning. I feel like it was doing all this Kafka stuff. It needed to be a intense caffeine day. Alrighty. So, if you're hanging out in the chat, say hi. Got any question? Let me know. Happy to go over anything, big or small, that I may have skipped over. You know, I work with Couchbase, and you know, PowerShell and Visual Studio Code and stuff like that, like every day. So I take a lot of stuff for granted. But absolutely, feel free to jump in with any question. Happy to go over any part of what I've done. One other thing that I wanted to think about for Twitch was, you know how you go to a Twitch page and you scroll down below here? There's like a bunch of little badges and pieces of text and things. Where do you actually define those things at? I wonder. So like badges and information, etc., which goes under the Twitch video. This is things like rules and whatever. Oh, I see Calvin still lurking. Meeting is going way long, but you're still on. Don't you? Are you still on the meeting, or are you still on here, or both? It's okay to lurk in this channel. Keep it as like background noise. You know, sometimes I do that with YouTube videos or Twitch or something. Although, you know, I don't know about you anyone watching, but I find it difficult to code and work, and more likely I'm writing these days, not necessarily coding, but I find it difficult to do that with like background music or background noise playing. I don't know. It's tough for me to not think about the music or what I'm hearing while I'm working on something. Every once in a while, if it's like a really rote task, I'll put on some music and listen to it, or a podcast or something like that. All right, so let's go back to this document here. And so the next thing I need to do is figure out how to get MySQL as a source of data for Kafka. And from what I've seen, there's really two options for this. There's probably other ones out there, but there's this Kafka connector, similar to Couchbase connector, called Debezium. I think that's how you pronounce it, debezium.io. And so bring that up over here. And so you can, this is not just MySQL, but certainly you can use Debezium with MySQL. So we could try that. Another option is what's called Maxwell's daemon, or daemon. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Daemon or daemon. Anyway, it is I don't think it's a Kafka connector per se. I could be wrong about that. But it is a, what do you describe it as? Maxwell's daemon. It's an application that reads MySQL bin logs and writes row updates as JSON to Kafka or other streaming platforms. So it's not exclusively Kafka, I guess. Maxwell has low operational overhead, requiring nothing but MySQL and a place to write to. So its common use cases include ETL. So that's kind of what we're doing here is ETL. ETL stands for extract, transform, load. So your extract is you're getting data from somewhere. T is transform, you're changing it in some way. You may not change it. The transform may be like a null transform, right? And load, which is you're going to put the data somewhere else. And sometimes you'll see like an ELT. So you may extract it, load the data, and then transform it. And that's kind of, I think, a more common, that's kind of more like what we're doing here. We're doing an ELT. So we're going to load into Couchbase into like that staging bucket. And at that point, we're going to combine it and modify it with other pieces of data into one user. But we haven't gotten there yet. So let's try this first. Let's try Maxwell. So I'm going to bring up Heidi SQL and connect to MySQL. And let me just bring up, so I've got a document that kind of, because we've done a lot of design for this already, it kind of plans the, if I can find it, what kind of table is going to be in home delivery, or tables, I guess. So a user table. So let's create a user table. Create a table, and we'll call it, just call it user. You know, see, I'm always worried about tables that are called things like user, because I would be nervous that that's a reserved word or something. You know, so we can call it something else, like we can call it I don't know, customer maybe. Yeah, let's call it customer. We can add some columns to that. So we've got like ID, which we can make integer, I guess, and don't allow nulls. And there's a way to make this the we'll make this a primary key, sure. And there's a way to make this like auto populate, which is pretty common. I'll come back to that. Okay, and we've got, maybe put password in there. I don't necessarily want to get all our passwords and stuff, but make that varchar 50, that's fine. Name, varchar 50, that's all fine. Email, make that 100. Email addresses can be pretty long. Address, line 1. So this is all information that's in the, make that 50. Information that's in the user delivery system. We need to know their address, right? So we can deliver stuff to them. Address line 2. And we'll make this one allow null. Not everyone has an address line 2. City. It's so weird being back in relational database world, having to do all this stuff. State, we can just make that 2, make an abbreviation, I guess. Zip code, and we're kind of assuming United States here, so we'll make that a 5 for the zip code. And what else? Phone number. And we can make that, what is that? 3, 6. And we're assuming United States, we'll make that 10 digits. Okay. And so one thing I think I can do with this is I want to get like the create code here. So I could script this next time. I don't have to do the, go through this UI. So create tables. It's got to just be a table. And we'll call it this, and this will be source SQL indent 0. So this is ASCIIDoc syntax. If I want to put some source code, embed some source code. I don't know if I need all that stuff. That can just be default, but that I can just copy and paste this next time if I want to create this table. And I'll also want to put some data in it, right? So do that here. I guess let me look up, how do we do like a MySQL auto number, auto increment is what it's called. So can we go back to this, refresh this table? Can we make this auto increment somehow? Yeah, here we go. Auto increment. There we go. So let me get the create code and paste that in here. So that is the SQL that we need to create a table in MySQL. We'll create a customer table. It'll have a primary key. We'll probably want to use that primary key in Couchbase at some point as the document key. But we'll see about that. All this other information, it really doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's somewhat realistic. You know, the user table in your home delivery database may have a lot more fields, a lot more tables, that sort of thing. But we're just going to keep it simple here, and we're going to say, well, any changes to this table we want to be put into Kafka, and say, hey, here's the latest copy of this customer's information from the home delivery system. And then we can count on Couchbase at some point in the future to interpret that and say, okay, well, we need to ingest this information and update the profile we have in the customer 360. Okay. So next thing we need to do is insert some data. Do we need to insert some data? We may as well. I don't know. We'll put that as a to-do. Might want to insert that later once we get a connector running. Okay. So I've got this table. It's called customer in my SQL database. So now, I guess what I'll do, if I can find that web page here, this Debezium here, or should I try Maxwell's? What do you think? I don't know. Let's try it with Debezium. Okay, let's go through the tutorial. So this is brand new ground for me. I completely don't know what's going on here, if this is going to work. So it says it involves Zookeeper, Kafka, and Debezium connector service. The thing is, I've already got Zookeeper and Kafka already running. This tutorial uses Docker and Debezium's Docker images. Okay, so that's fine. I don't have Kafka running in Docker right now. Make sure that Docker is installed. Yep, latest version of Docker. Pretty sure I have the latest version of Docker. Running Docker virtual machine. Yeah. This is some old stuff. Okay, starting simple. For simple evaluation experimentation, we'll walk through a single instance of each service in a separate container on your local machine. They both store data inside the container. Normal usage requires mounting. Okay, fine. Separate terminal run each container in the foreground. I don't know why that's necessary, but okay. Start Zookeeper. So I already have Zookeeper. And I already have Kafka on 9092 and 2181. Yeah, so that's correct. So I've already got those. I already got my SQL database. Again, not in Docker. It's just running right here on Windows. So maybe I have to redo all this with Docker instead of running it directly on Windows. Okay, start my SQL command line client. What do I need to do this? Container 5.7. Yep. Using password, fine. Show tables. Okay. All right. So I guess we've got some data in there already. We already did that. Yep. Okay. Start Kafka Connect. Okay. So I've got those first three pieces done. Hopefully, now they're not in Docker, so this could be problematic. But we're going to try it. Why not? Okay. Get some windows over here on my other screen. So I got two screens going. One of them was like a backstage kind of thing. Just want to make sure I can see the chat. And see the tutorial. Okay. Okay. All right, so what this is saying to do is Docker. I'm going to zoom back up here, get a little more screen space. I'm gonna make this font bigger. I don't know. Font. A little better. Oh, Calvin says he's back in black. Just in time to see me completely fail, Calvin. Trying to... So, I don't know if how much you're paying attention to your meeting. Hopefully you were paying attention to your meeting, Calvin, because it's very important. But, but I've got Couchbase, I've got Kafka, and I've got Kafka connected to Couchbase. And I was able to put some data into Kafka, which was then written into Couchbase via the connector. You were 50% of the meeting. Okay. Well, it's hard to hide when you're 50% of the meeting. So anyway, so I've got that much working. So the next thing to do is actually, I've got MySQL set up, and I want any data that goes into or changes in this table in MySQL called customer, I want any data in there to result in some data being put into Kafka. Calvin says, I've been wanting to play around with Kafka, so this is noise. Noise. That's N-O-I-C-E, noise. My son says that. He says noise like that. Is that like a... is it just like the kids, how the kids talk these days? They do it like their impression of some sort of British accent. They say noise. Or maybe it's like what is it, Fortnite thing? I don't know. Calvin says, your son is a cool kid. Well, it's a pretty low bar in the Groves house to be cool. I am pretty much the opposite of cool. So he's automatically cooler than me. And I think I told people this before. I'm actually the probably third most famous Matthew Groves in my own hometown. So there's actually another guy who lives here named Matthew Groves, no relation. And he's like, at the church I go to, he used to be anyway, like he'd run all the audio engineering and the video and things like that, all the production. And so everyone knew who he was. And so they'd always mistake me for him. They're like, hey, Matthew. Nope, not me. Wrong one. And then my son is also named Matthew Groves. And he is, of course, he's well known at school. And all his friends there. He's also well known at like Little League and his travel baseball team and church and the YMCA and a million other things. So outside of my hometown, I'm probably more well known than those two, but inside my own hometown, I am number 3 on the list. Anyway, okay, so I'm trying to follow this tutorial here for Debezium right there. And so it's a Docker run -it -rm. So I'm not sure what -rm means. Name. And it's calling it Connect. I'm going to call it Debezium Connect, just so I know. Port number 8083. 8083. So I'm exposing port 8083 outside of Docker. -e, I don't know what E is. Group ID equals 1. Oh, these are like just settings, I guess. I don't know what group ID does. Config storage topic. So, 8038 or... Oh, yeah. Good call there, Calvin. I messed it up. 8083. Oh, well, I mean, I'm just following the tutorial, and it has them both the same port, 8083. So I'm going to follow along the best I can. Now, config storage topic. So there's 3 of them here. I just put this over here so we can look at it. Get a bigger font over here, too. Let's see. We do a bigger font. Preferences, settings, font size, 20. Is that good? A little better, I guess. So this is the thing I'm doing here. So I'm calling it Debezium Connect, and so it's asking for me to put in config storage topic, offset storage topic, status storage topic. And one of these has got to be the topic I already created, which was home delivery, I believe. Yes, home delivery. So which one is that? Okay, so let's go through a little bit of this. So IT, this makes the container interactive. Okay, RM, it says remove the container when it's stopped. Oh, interesting. And I know this exposes the port already. Command maps port 8083 in the first container to the same port on the Docker host so that software outside of the container can use Kafka Connect's REST API to set up and manage new connector instances. Okay, so this might work. And the command uses the -- link Zookeeper to Zookeeper, Kafka to Kafka, and MySQL to MySQL to tell the container that can find Zookeeper running in the container named Zookeeper. Okay, so that's a problem because I'm not running those in Docker. So this is not going to work, even if I could figure out what these to put in for these topics. Let's see. Uses set the group ID. Those are environment variables. They're all required by this Debezium image. You can use different values as desired. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so I may have to just do this all in Docker. I may have to move MySQL and Couchbase and Kafka into Docker to do all this. The trick there is I don't think there's a Docker image for the Couchbase connector. So how could I run that? Could I run that on Windows and run everything else in Docker? That's worth a try. So I'll have to shut down everything here. So I'm shutting down, I shut down the connector. Control C, I'm shutting down Kafka. And Control C, I'm shutting down Zookeeper. So all those things are shut down. And I may as well shut down MySQL too. Is that a service I shut down? How does that work? Yep, it's a service. So I'll go ahead and stop that. So I'm shutting down MySQL. Now, one thing I didn't convey is that I am already running Couchbase in Docker. This is because I usually run an internal build directly on Windows, but because there's no Docker image for the internal build, and I just switch between Docker releases when I'm trying to answer forum questions or using a specific version for tutorials. So this tutorial is I'm running against 6.0.1 of Couchbase server. It probably could work with 6.5, which is the release, the next release. But I'm just going to stick with 6.0.1. So I already got that running in Docker. So that's fine. So let's go through this whole tutorial then, I guess. So we'll start Zookeeper. And it says to do that, we run this command right here. Let's put this one right here. So to run Zookeeper, that's the first thing we do. All right, so I'll just bring this up in command line here. So the way it's going to do this, it's going to run them in their own individual windows. That's what the IT is for. Don't know why it's doing that. I guess so you can maybe see what's going on behind the scenes. But I'm just running this new Docker image called Zookeeper. It's Debezium Zookeeper image. And exposing these ports and naming it Zookeeper. So we'll go ahead and do that. So this is going to take a while for it to actually download from Docker Hub. This only happens the first time you run Docker on a new image. It's to download it, and it'll cache it going forward. Okay, so we'll just give that a second to complete there. So exciting watching this. It's amazing. These arrows. It actually is kind of strangely satisfying to see a Docker image download all the different pieces of it. As they go across there, you can see all the different pieces. And some of them have base images in common, so they're already caching those parts. So it's interesting to watch download sometimes. Like this is the big piece right here. This is probably, oh no, that's not a big piece. Just taking a long time. One of these is probably like a Linux base image. Okay, so there we go. We should see starting up in standalone mode, Zookeeper enabled by default. Okay, all those things match the tutorial here. The last line is important and reports that Zookeeper is ready and listening on port 2181. Excellent. The terminal will continue to show additional output as Zookeeper generates it. So basically what we're saying is leave that alone and open up a new window. Okay, the next thing to do is start Kafka. So again, we're running in interactive mode. We'll remove it when it's done. I might want to change this going forward, but it's fine. And we're going to expose port 9092. We're linking it to Zookeeper. So they can both link together because they're both running inside Docker, which is nice. And we're using Debezium's Kafka image. It's interesting here. We're doing that. Okay, so this is going to do another download here because I never downloaded this image. Although parts of it I already have, as you can see. So in this tutorial, we're always connecting Docker, or we're always connecting to Kafka from within a Docker container, and they'll always be able to see and communicate with the Kafka container as long as we link to the Kafka container. If we wanted to connect to Kafka from outside of Docker, we want Kafka to advertise its address via the Docker host, which we could do by adding -e advertised host name. Interesting. So this runs a new container using version .9 of the Debezium Kafka image, and it gives it the name Kafka. Just like this one has the name Zookeeper. IT makes it interactive. RM will remove it when it's stopped. It won't remove the actual cached image, but it will remove it. So you can see some stuff happening there in both windows, just like we saw earlier. So typical output of Kafka ending with Kafka server ID = 1 started. Shows that it successfully started and is ready for client connections. So it will continue to show output as Kafka generates it. So once again, we'll just sort of put this one up there. Okay, and now MySQL. So this is kind of interesting here. We're going to run MySQL. And so again, very similar IT and RM. We're giving it the name MySQL. It's the MySQL port. We're giving it a root password of Debezium. So the root user would have this password. We're creating another user, which is all fine. We need to open another terminal window. Well, not terminal window, but PowerShell window. Okay, so that's just all what we had before. And this is also Debezium's MySQL image. So we're all Debezium at this point. We're all in with Debezium. It's interesting. Okay. So pulling a lot of stuff here. So this is running example MySQL. Yeah, example MySQL. Interesting. Defines and populates. This is already going to have an inventory database. So we may have to go in there and change that at some point, just for tutorial sake, but that's fine. Seems reasonable. So we should see something in my terminal like the following. Yep, ready for connections and socket port 3306. Okay. So it starts and stops a few times as the configuration is modified. That's interesting. Okay, and then it's asking me to run a MySQL command line client. So I may opt out of that in favor of HeidiSQL, because I'm pretty much a UI type of guy. I'm really clicky when it comes to stuff like this. So let's just see if this works. And let's just do the Bezium was the root password, and I'll put in root. See what happens here. Okay, I'm able to connect. And here's even the inventory with addresses, customers, orders, products, etc. Okay, so good. And what it wants me to do now is just basically make sure everything's there. Run the select star from customers, which I can do, and there we go. There's 4 customers in there. Very nice. Okay, great. And now another Docker window. This is for Kafka Connect. So there'll be this step right here. Okay, and this is what I was doing before. Let's give it a shot. See what happens. So pulling a little bit of Docker stuff, and at the end it's going to say finished starting connectors and tasks. You can see there's some other activity in the other windows up there, but there we go. Finished starting connectors and tasks. Great. Kafka Connect service exposes a RESTful API to manage a set of connectors. So let's use the API curl command line tool. So I'm not going to use curl because I'm on Windows. I'll use Postman instead. That's how I roll. Like I said, I'm very UI oriented, I think. Probably more so than most. So I don't need any of these. Close all tabs. Don't need those. That's from something I was doing the other day. We'll do a GET request to localhost 8083. And what happens if I do that? I get back a version number, commit, and yeah, so this is just following along this tutorial here. Seems to be working so far. Okay, now check the list of connectors. This is interesting. Connectors. And it says it should return the following, which is an empty array. I thought I was running a connector though. This confirms that the Kafka Connect service is running, that we can talk with it, and that it currently has no connectors. Let's remedy that by starting a connector that will capture changes from our MySQL database. So we're running the Bezium services. Yeah. Okay. Since this is a new connector, it will start reading from the beginning of the MySQL bin log, which records all the transactions, okay? Including individual row changes and changes to the schemas. All right, so we're in curl here again. Connectors. And we've got some, we're doing a post this time. And we want the actual body to be up here. Like raw? Yeah, something like that. You know, I want to format that JSON a little nicer so I can read it. So what I do is I use something called jsonlint.com, and I post in some raw JSON there and validate it, and it pretties it up nicely for me too. So that way I can paste it in here. So inventory connector. This is interesting. So here is the connector class. In the database, the user password is not DBZ though, is it? Database host is specified as MySQL. That's the Docker name for it. We have a Debezium user set up expressly. Now, I thought I remember it being DBZ as the password. Where did I set that at? That was over here. Okay, well, I'm going to have to see what happens with that. Doesn't seem right. Okay, and what else we got? We only want to detect changes in the inventory database, so we use a whitelist. Connector should store the history of the database schemas in Kafka using the named broker. That's interesting because I don't necessarily want every table in there. I just want the one table. I wonder if there's a setting for that. History topic. So so the topic that I want is back up here. It was home-delivery. I'm going to stick with that. Database whitelist. I bet there's a setting to pick just a specific table. So let's just look that up. Debezium database whitelist. Table. So I'm looking at Stack Overflow right now, and it looks like there's a table whitelist. So I'm going to say customer on that. That was what it was called, right? Customer? Customers. Okay. I don't know what this database server ID is. All right, I think I'm going to try it. See what happens. Error code, unsupported media type. Oh, yes. This should be JSON, I believe, right? Yes. Okay, try it again. Okay. It's doing stuff. In the background, you can see the text scrolling. All kinds of stuff was happening. So this is a connector. Okay, and this is this is MySQL, right? This is Kafka. DB, so I don't see anything about home delivery in here. This is oh, here's one, home delivery. Okay. All right. Great. So I'm assuming now it's put that data into Kafka. So now what? Viewing the change events. So we saw the connectors output written to 5 topics. Okay. Each topic starts with DB server 1. Yep. Fine. We use the Kafka Docker image to start a new container. It runs one of Kafka's utilities to watch the topic from the beginning of the topic. Okay. It's interesting. So we're going to run yet another window here. So this is going to watch. This is just going to watch something. It's a watcher. Let's see what happens. Contents. Error while fetching metadata with correlation ID 2. Okay, doesn't seem to be working. Did I miss something? I think because it's not DB Server 1 inventory customers, or wait. I changed the name of the topic. Oh, whoopsie daisy. So all events beginning of the topic. Dash K is the output. Okay, fine. Use the A flag. I want to see all events. So it's an error while fetching metadata with correlation ID. Leader not available. DB server 1 is the database server name, inventory, and I only really want customers. But this should work, right? What was the, so I changed the home delivery. What was the default for that? Kafka, topic. dbhistory.inventory. Okay. So why don't I do this? Like so, I can say home-delivery. Let's see what happens. Again, an error. Well, I called this DB server. It was DB history. Oh, wait. Kafka topic. Schema changes, not inventory. Yeah, it was DB history, not inventory. That's what it originally was. Let's try this again. Try one more time. See what happens here. So a connector already exists. So how can we remove a connector, I guess? Try it. We'll just call it a different name, I guess. Okay, fine. Let's go back and redo this. Of course, that's what the --rm is for. It'll remove all these images and all the data when we're done. just want to see some data show up so that I know it's getting into Kafka. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so looks like this is working. I'm not getting an error message, so let's go ahead and put some data in here. See what happens. We've got data, so we'll add a new one. Call this one Matt Groves, me at mgroves.com, and save. And I would expect that to show up here, but it doesn't appear to be. See all events since the beginning of the topic. If we remove the A flag, also okay, fine. Okay, events key, yep. This should all be outputting some stuff here. So it should look like this. Contents of the topic. And it's not actually spitting anything out. Well, yeah. Have to figure this out. Have to think about this some more. I think maybe I'll try it again and just do it verbatim, before I start tinkering and figuring out how I can get it to go in the Kafka topic that I want it to go in. And I also need to figure out how to actually get the Couchbase Kafka connector running within Docker. I might not need to, but maybe I do. I don't know. We'll find out. Okay, well, I think I'm going to shut her down for today. And maybe I'll play around with some of the Twitch stuff tomorrow if I have time. Let me see what's on the docket tomorrow. I don't have my calendar up. Let's see. Well, yeah, tomorrow I'm going to work on a presentation. I'm working on. I'm going to be presenting at Nomad.js, so nomadjs.com. I'll be there. Just bring up that on the page here, nomadjs.com. I'll be presenting on data modeling there. So there I am, data modeling. This is one I give this one a lot, but it's always adding new interesting stuff to it. So, and this is online meetup too, so you can just create a free account and sign up and watch it. It might be a recording available, I'm not sure exactly, but nomadjs.com, sign up for that. That will be happening next Wednesday at about 2 p.m. my time, so that's when that will be happening. But I got to prepare for that. I got some time blocked off to prepare for that tomorrow morning. So yeah, maybe I'll even stream that tomorrow morning if you're interested in watching a guy fiddle with slides for a while and do some practice. But tomorrow afternoon I've got some time. I could maybe fiddle with some of this Twitch stuff just to get things, nice and smooth looking, get the chat on the screen, that sort of stuff. Anyway, I want to thank Kevin and Calvin for dropping in the chat and helping me with some stuff. And that's it for now. I'm going to see if I can do some auto hosting. So if you come back to this channel, you might see someone else's code stream happening. We'll see. Okay. That's it for me. Everybody have a good Thursday. Bye-bye.